There is a podcast that lies between the imagination of two simple-minded earthlings. Travel with these two longtime friends, Jimbo and 80s E, as they attempt to explore the fifth dimension. Follow along with them as they take the key and unlock the door to the vast space between shadow and substance. This podcast is one of trivia, of insight, and of sounds and ideas from one of the greatest television shows ever produced. You are embarking on a timeless journey. There is your signpost up ahead. You are entering the tragedy of cinema's Twilight Zone.
Introducing four experts in the questionable art of crime. Mr. Farwell, expert on noxious gases. Former professor with a doctorate in both chemistry and physics. Mr. Irby, expert in mechanical engineering. Mr. Brooks, expert in the use of firearms and other weaponry. And Mr. DeCruz, expert in demolition and various forms of destruction. The time is now, and the place is a mountain cave in Death Valley, USA. In just a moment, these four men will utilize the services of a truck placed in Cosmoline, loaded with a hot heist, cooled off by a century of sleep, and then take a drive into the Twilight Zone.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Tragedy of Cinema, the Twilight Zone series. I'm your host, Jimbo, and today, I am not in the southern layer.
Oh.
Yeah, scary. I am actually in the northwest layer of none other than my co-host.
80Z, right here, ready to take on this I'm ready to rip this Van Winkle caper.
You think you are? Boy, I'm really going to rip her.
Yeah, I mean, this is the opposite of Mirror Image for me. Like, Mirror Image got better and better the more I rewatched it. This one got worse and worse. Like, there's so many plot holes.
I have a brilliant observation at the end of this, because this could have been over within the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
So, but we'll get there. So, Eric, you got any questions or anything before we dive into this?
No, I'll just go ahead and take her away. The Rip Van Winkle caper. This is the Twilight Zone season number 2, episode number 24. And it was directed by Justice Addis. I don't know if we've had him as a director yet or not.
Not that I remember.
Okay. My memory wasn't serving me either. So it was written by Rod Serling. And the original air date for this episode was April the 21st, 1961. And the total production cost comes in around $55,016.62. So when we adjust that for inflation for this episode, it looks like $559,599.99. And that looks like about a 917% increase over all these many years, just by way of dates that are associated with this episode. The dates of rehearsal were March the 6th and March the 7th of 1961. And the dates of filming were March 8, 9, and 10 of 1961. I thought it was interesting, too, that this one was actually rehearsed and filmed only about, looks like maybe a little over a month before it actually aired. So 1961 air day, April 21st, and March 8, 9, and 10 of filming of 1961. So that's about all I have as far as the preliminaries. Jimbo, you want to handle the cast for this episode?
Sure, let's dive in. It's a shorter cast. Just has a few players in this episode. So here we go. Probably the main character is none other than Simon Oakland. He plays De Cruz. A little bit interesting fact about his role in this episode is he was an expert in demolition and other forms of destruction. I thought that was pretty cool, because all these little... have we talked about the plot of this yet?
No, not yet.
I think
you
might want to do that before I go through this, so that way they understand.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I've got a little segment in here, too, about what each man's, I took it right out of the script, each man had a specialty, if you will.
Yeah, that's what I have. That's why I wanted to make sure people are like, well, why does it matter if he's a demolition expert?
Yeah. Well, sure, let's go ahead with the plot, and then maybe some of that will fit together a little bit. So the plot is 4 thieves steal $1 million in gold bullion in a train robbery and hide the money in a mountainside cave. The 4 plan to go into suspended animation for approximately 100 years. You're laughing over there. When they hope to awaken as extremely rich men with their heist long forgotten. When they awaken, they're not quite sure what year it is. One of them, De Cruz, has his eye on getting as much of the gold for himself as he possibly can. The world they have awakened in isn't exactly what they had hoped for.
Right. So back to the cast. Like I said, Simon Oakland, he played De Cruz. He was an expert in demolition and other forms of destruction. His film debut, Eric, he was an Indiana State Trooper in the movie The Desperate Hours, although he was uncredited. So us being from Indiana, I thought that was pretty cool little trivia to throw in there. He also took his mother's maiden name for his stage name. He was also in the movie Psycho, where he played the psychiatrist at the end of the film. He was in West Side Story. He was also in Bullet. He was primarily in television, where he had over 130 series and TV movies. Sadly, he died of colon cancer in 1983, the day after his 68th birthday. Next up on the list, we have Oscar Beregi Jr. Hopefully I have the name right. Sometimes I feel bad because I don't pronounce them right, but he played Farwell. He was the expert on nitrous gases. Mm-hmm. I just laugh at this because you'll find out. He was in Young Frankenstein, Eric, from 1974, where he played the sadistic jailer. He was also in My Fair Lady, where he was the Greek ambassador. And he was also in The Incredible Mr. Lippet, the great Don Knotts film, where he played the Nazi admiral. Up next, we have Lou Gallo. He played Brooks. He was the expert in the use of firearms and other weaponry. He was in the movie I Now Pronounce You Chuck and Larry in 2007. He was in Pork Chop Hill, Gunsmoke, and also Lost in Space. Then we had John Mitchum playing Irby. He was an expert in mechanical engineering. He was in the movie The Enforcer in 1976. He's probably best known for his Dirty Harry films, where he played Inspector Frank DiGiorgio. Say that 5 times fast. He was also in Batman, the 66 TV show. If you remember the famous episode, Surf's Up, Joker's Under, where Batman and the Joker are surfing, where he played Hot Dog Harrington. So I thought I had to throw that in there.
Yeah.
You had Wallace Rooney. By the way, he died in 1996. Wallace Rooney played George. He was in The Exorcist in 1973, where he played Bishop Michael. Also, he was in Rocky as the secretary. Shirley O'Hara, she was George's wife. She was in Chips, The Mary Tyler Moore Show, Emergency, The Incredible Hulk. She was also in Rocky in 76. She sadly died in 2002 from complications of diabetes. And yes, none other than the great Rod Serling, the narrator, self-host himself. Needs no introduction from us. If you listen to this long enough, you know how great he is and what we think of him. So, Eric, that is your cast for the Rip Van Winkle Caper.
Outstanding. All right, there's a lot of work being done in that cast. A lot of famous TV shows and movies for sure. They made their way around the silver screen, so to speak. Let me circle back to April 21st, 1961, and let's talk a little bit. This is our favorite segment in the podcast that we like to call On This Day in History. On this day in history for April the 21st, 1930. Let's go all the way back to 1930, and let's talk about All Quiet on the Western Front. It was a movie that was based on the novel by Ulrich Maria. I'm gonna butcher this name. Remarque. Is directed by Louis Milestone and starring Louis Wolheim and Lou Ayres, and it premiered in Los Angeles. And it has the Academy Awards Outstanding Production Award. So that was a very famous movie in 1930, All Quiet on the Western Front. Jimbo, have you seen that one?
I have not.
I haven't either. That's going way back. So let's skip ahead in time many years later. Let's talk 1984. After 37 weeks, Michael Jackson's album Thriller is knocked off as top. Now you might wonder, what does this have to do with movies and TVs? Well, this song got knocked off as a top album by the movie soundtrack for Footloose.
Footloose.
Yeah, great movie in 1984. 1986, as it pertains to TV, 2 years later, Geraldo Rivera opens Al Capone's vault on live TV and finds nothing.
Do you remember that?
I remember seeing clips of it.
Oh, man.
I never saw the original, but
I was so excited. You know, back in our younger days, it was a big news, like when they would be like, we're opening King Tut's tomb or whatever.
Right.
Remember? And they'd make this big old thing, and then they'd be chiseled away, then there'd be like another wall or something. You're like, well, folks, we tried.
Wah, wah, wah. Yeah, we tried. So he opened the vault on live TV. He didn't get anything. They didn't find anything, but there was great ratings for that TV special. All right, let's move forward just a few more years to 1993. And let's talk about the action TV series Walker, Texas Ranger, starring Chuck Norris, debuts on CBS. So that was
Not a fan.
April the 21st, 1993. And that concludes this day in TV and film history.
You a fan of the Walker, Texas Ranger?
No, I don't think I've ever seen one episode from beginning to end. So, yeah.
Hey, we're in agreement so far.
Hey,
this is impressive.
I mean, that's kind of so. I mean, that's a big fat for a Walker, Texas Ranger. Yeah. All right. So,
sorry, Chuck Norris. Don't block the sun from us and destroy us for saying that.
So let's move back to our episode at hand, the Rip Van Winkle caper, and let's talk about the opening scene. And the opening scene really is. These four men are approaching what looks to be a cave. And this was back-to-back episodes, remember, 100 Yards Over the Rim and this episode were filmed on location back-to-back. So they had some forethought and planning. So the sets are, the surroundings look very similar. And as a car pulls up with two men in it and they approach a semi-truck, and I did a little digging, and from the best that I can tell, this looks like a 1961 for all the car people. I always look at all the cars, too. A 1961 Ford Fairlane. So that would have been a brand new car, which is odd because I looked at the 1960 model on Google, and it has different taillights, and this one has round taillights, so it has to be at least a 1961. But it's all beat up, and it looks like it's been ran through the ringer,
Well, if you notice, it's they're using it as a cover which says Jones Moving Storage or something on it.
Yeah.
So they maybe want to make it look older than what it actually is, so they can get away quicker.
Yeah, it looks like the paint's all faded, and it looks like it's been beat up quite a bit. Which, oddly enough, the same semi-truck that was used in 100 Yards Over the Rim that almost runs over a Christian in that episode is the same semi with the same Jones van and storage trailer on the back. So they reused that semi-truck for this episode. Just a little side note trivia there. And they load the gold bullion out of the semi-truck, and they load it onto a cart, which that's the first hole in this plot. I don't know, Jimbo, I see a bunch of graphs and charts over there on your... Did you have something that you wanted to talk about the gold, or do you want to get to that later?
Well, they say it's 1 million gold bullion, right? And one of the guys says, I have a $1.20 in my pocket in overhead. But they're trying to get this gold to the cave, which... He said, we got to destroy the vehicles too, if you remember.
Right.
So right there for me, they're like, okay, so you're going to destroy these vehicles. What's your escape plan, if you will, once...
The 100 years is up?
Well, alleged 100 years.
Yeah, right.
It just didn't make sense to me. but what do I know?
Yeah. Well,
but I didn't do the inflation calculation for what gold was.
Okay, I did do that.
Okay.
Yeah. So, we'll get to that shortly. But once they approach the cave and they have this discussion, then they move the gold inside the cave. And I guess I will bring it up here because let me find it in my notes. It's in the trivia portion of my notes. The fact that they can load this on a dolly, for me, is the first plot hole in this episode. Because...
How much does it weigh?
Okay, $1 million in gold in 1961 at $35.50 an ounce, I did a little research, would weigh over 28,000 ounces or 1,760 pounds. You and I both know, and our audience probably will know too, you can't load close to 1,800 pounds on a two-wheel dolly. But, it's not going to hold.
But see, I don't know. To me, I don't know if that's the only trip.
Yeah, I mean...
That could explain that away. I
only see like 2 or 3 bags on the cave floor. I won't be so harsh on that. I will take that exception into account. Now, what's it worth in 2023? This is my first, or trivia as we're kind of all over the place in this episode. But so in 2023, at $1,938 an ounce, and this is according to Apex.com, 28,000 ounces or 1,760 pounds would be worth $54,264,000. So I mean, the idea is, correct, but let me jump back because I wanted to establish that fact up front that, I think they would need to drive the semi or a big heavy duty truck, at least a 2-ton truck would be filled with the gold. They would have to drive that into the cave. They wouldn't be able to just pull it off in 2 or 3 knapsacks.
Right. And Eric,
that might be a minor issue. But
you've worked where we've had to unload trailers. I've worked where we had to unload trailers. And to me, when you do that and you're loading a trailer, you have to make sure the weight's distributed too. You put it all in the front. It's going to
tip over. The trailer
put it in the
tip
back, right
over, yeah.
So that's another observation that I had.
All right. So... not to put too much emphasis on, that's a small little plot hole. Let's get to the bigger plot holes.
Wait till he starts ripping on it.
Yeah, I'm in rip mode. So Farwell, the main character, the ringleader, the man who's an expert in gases, and he's what does he have? A degree in physics and chemistry. He has a doctorate in both. This guy is the leader. Farwell says, "It's one thing, gentlemen, to stop a train on its way from Fort Knox to Los Angeles and steal its cargo. It's another thing to remain free to spend it, and spend it we shall." So, okay, first of all, you're not stealing gold from Fort Knox.
Man, we haven't even got through the introduction, basically. Eric's already in full form.
You're not gonna... Okay, it made it seem... Now, I don't know. I'm getting really in the weeds here.
Getting worked up here, brother.
Yeah. Like, they were on some kind of passenger train because they mentioned in the dialogue that all the people fell asleep.
Yep.
You're not going... A passenger train is not going to go through Fort Knox, and they're not going to be able to steal gold out of Fort Knox, number one, with 4 guys. And they're not going to load it onto... A passenger train is not going to go through there.
But it would be a good cover-up.
I guess.
If you loaded the gold.
Those things just don't go together. There's no way they're going to get into that. Oh, and by the way, Fort Knox housed, I guess there was an order during World War II that the Declaration of Independence, this was interesting, I didn't know this, and the Gettysburg Address and the Constitution were all stored in Fort Knox during World War II for a short period of time by, I think, executive order of the president. So that's like the safest place to put anything. If the country's most valuable documents were stored there for a short period of time, you think 4 clowns who have demolition experience in a passenger train are going to be able to... Anyway, I'm rambling on.
I wish they would have explained a little bit about, or maybe even shown how they did the train robbery, if you will.
Yeah.
Because to me, it was just like an afterthought. Like, oh yeah, we put these people...
Right.
We had to step over them horizontally, and you're like...
Right. There's not a lot of details given. And I understand why. It's a 23-minute, episode.
But didn't they also say like they blew up the train tracks and that they
had to,
and they robbed a train? So I don't know.
So that would lead me to believe that the train had to be coming out of Fort Knox, and then they blew up the tracks and then put everybody to sleep, robbed the gold, and left. In my mind, but Anyway, let's talk about the origins of the title of this particular episode. The Rip Van Winkle caper comes from the Rip Van Winkle story, which I enjoyed a lot as a kid when I read it, like in elementary school. Did you ever read it?
Is that where he falls asleep for 100 years and wakes up with that
it was
big
actually,
long
I thought it was
beard or
100
whatever?
years, but it was only 20 years according to this. Okay, so let's talk about the actual story, the origin story. It's a short story by an American author, Washington Irving. Mm-hmm. He first published it in 1819. It follows a Dutch-American villager in colonial America named Rip Van Winkle, who meets a mysterious Dutchman, imbibes their strong liquor, and thence falls asleep deeply in the Catskill Mountains. He awakens 20 years later to a very changed world, having missed the American Revolution. It was inspired by a conversation on nostalgia with an American expurgate. I'm not sure what that word means. I have to look it up. It's an American expurgate brother-in-law. Irving wrote the story while temporarily living in Birmingham, England. It was published in the collection called The Sketchbook of Geoffrey Canyon Ghent. While the story is set in the New York Catskill Mountains near where Irving later took up residence, he admitted, when I wrote the story, I had never been on the Catskills. So he wrote it from England, had a conversation, it sounds like, with his brother-in-law, who was an American living in England at the time, and then eventually Irving moved to the U.S., but he wrote this whole story about this man who fell asleep in the Catskill Mountains during the Revolutionary War period. And so, yeah, I remember vaguely reading the story and liking it. So I went in with this episode with high expectations, and they just got ripped.
All right, since Eric has been ripping this episode, I'm going to throw in at least a little.
Go for it.
A little. I guess I'll be nice for an instance. I will say that the cave echoes when they are talking, they sound really good. That's one thing I noticed when I was watching it with my surround sound. Mm-hmm. You can hear the echoes, so it makes you feel like you're actually in a cave. Mm-hmm. Also, well, I'll save that for a little bit later. But I will say I think the play of shadows and lighting is done really well in this too, especially the cave scene and some later scenes. So I will throw that out there before Eric just derails this any further.
Sorry. Well, if we move along in progressing in the episode, I'm just going to hit some highlights, and then we'll wrap up with more trivia and close this one down. But let's talk about the 4 experts in the art of crime. All right, we gathered that from the dialogue. Jimbo already alluded to it a little bit earlier. So Farwell, he's an expert in noxious gases. He's a former professor. He's a doctorate in chemistry and physics. Okay, so Irby, he is a professional in mechanical engineering. Brooks, he's a firearms and other weaponry expert, which Brooks should have been packing his heat when he almost got ran over here in a minute. So, the Cruz.
Wait, let me. Can I just say something real quick?
Sure.
Irby, number one, he's an expert in mechanical engineering. Okay.
Yeah.
And what happens to him in this episode is tragic.
He doesn't make it.
But I'm saying he's a mechanical engineer. If anybody should have survived what was going on.
Maybe we should put these glass caskets under a rock.
Under stalactites or whatever.
That might be a mechanical engineering problem that might come to mind. So DeCruz, as Jimbo already mentioned too, was an expert in demolition and other forms of destruction. Boy, was he ever an expert in destruction. So they are in a mountain cave in Death Valley, USA. That's what the episode reveals to us.
And I like how it's so hot and they're over there in suits and everything.
Oh yeah, that's not totally 1960s. Like we got full 3-piece suits on. Oh yeah. Okay, so we talked about the origin of Rip Van Winkle. The men, after a conversation, there's kind of some disagreement. A couple of the guys want to follow Farwell's leadership. Looks like he's the leader so far, but they're starting to splinter, and you kind of see that. Some guys want to cash their money in now. some want to go along with Farwell's, theory that they're going to be in a state of inanimation or whatever, and then they're going to come back. So they all sort of finally come around to the idea that we're going to do what Farwell says. He's quote unquote the expert, and he's got all the degrees behind his name, and we're going to follow his lead. So they get into the glass caskets, okay? The cruise, again, is quite apprehensive, and the suspended animation will be approximately 100 years, and then, according to Farwell, they will walk the earth as rich men once they emerge. You got something else, a problem with?
I can't take it anymore. Here I go.
Okay.
Okay, so these idiots and their ringleader, they're going to get into these glass coffins that has been constructed, I'm assuming, by the engineer. And also in with the noxious gas guy, Farwell, right? And you can see very early on that they're getting gold fever.
Yeah.
Okay? Mm-hmm. So here's my question. If I'm the smartest one of the bunch, even, let's say Farwell, the one with the gas, whoever, I think it's De Cruz or whatever, the one that runs the guy over, right?
Yeah.
Okay. My question is, you can tell very early on that De Cruz was not on board with this plan.
Mm-hmm.
My question to you, Eric, is how come when they got in the glass coffins, because they had the locking mechanism there, mm-hmm. and you had to push the green button to get the gas to come into your thing, why wouldn't you just look around?
Just don't push it.
Everybody else does it. Don't push yours. The other guys are knocked out. You get up, you load all the gold into the car, and you escape down the road. You put the gold somewhere safe, and then you ditch the car. Nobody's ever going to know any difference. And then you can even call in a tip, say, oh, by the way, you may maybe even leave a few gold there. Say, by the way, I think these guys robbed, I don't know what they did, but this is an anonymous tip. Can I have my cash reward? On top of that, I had to get that off my chest because it was just...
That makes too much sense. Like,
bada bing, bada boom, the Twilight Zone's over for this episode.
Episode's over.
Okay,
boy.
I'm off my soapbox right
now.
No, that just drove me crazy from the very first time I watched it. But I did feel sorry for Irby, dude. He was on board with the old plan at the rock fell.
Right. Yeah. So they're inside the glass caskets. They, as you just very, wonderfully described, they check the airlocks. They count to 10. They reach down with their left hand, press the green button to release the gas. Pleasant dreams, good sleep, and I'll see you in the next century, was the remark that was made at the end. And then we get like this external shot, by the way, like an interlude shot of the wind blowing through the mountains to illustrate the passing of time. And then I think we go to a commercial break, and then we come back inside the cave. And De Cruz, he doesn't understand why their beards and nails. Yeah. That's the least of your concern about this.
My thing is, what did you eat for these 100 years, too? Or defecate anywhere?
Yeah, Farwell explains that all bodily functions have stopped. So they wouldn't see any visible signs. So he explained that this was foolproof, and that, De Cruz thinks, well, it didn't work. We may have only gone to sleep for an hour or so. And Farwell says, no, it has to work. Everything stops. So the men roll back the cave door to investigate, to find that the road was still there and it hadn't changed a bit. They discover that a rock, we talked about this a little bit, a rock from the top of the cave has struck Irby's his casket, and it cracked the glass, and all the the gas has escaped, and all that's left is a skeleton,
That was pretty cool, the skeleton there.
So, do you have the trivia? Should we put this in now? What this is an homage to, or was
no, dude? I you know what? Honestly, I didn't even look at the trivia. I was going off everything from watching the episode.
Just the episode,
right? Because I knew you would do such a good job on your notes. I didn't want to.
No. I'll just go ahead and mention it now while we're in full stream here. So, let me find it here. The interior of the cave, including, we'll talk about money here. Okay, sorry, pardon me. This is the point that correlates with where we're at in the episode. When De Cruz and Farwell and Brooks awake from suspended animation in 2061, they discovered that Irby is no more than a skeleton, as a falling rock has cracked the chamber. This is reminiscent of the scene in The Planet of the Apes in 1968, in which Taylor, Dodge, and Landon discover that the desiccated corpse of their fellow astronaut Stewart is in her stasis pod, which malfunctioned and caused the air to leak. Like this episode, the initial drafts of the film were written by Rod Serling. So that was an idea that was further used in The Planet of the Apes later in 1968, which I think it's a cool effect.
And this is set in 2061. That's not too far away now.
No.
It's like 40 years from now.
Like, 38 years from now. They should be coming out of the cave in about 38 years. So...
I just want one of them cool cars at the end of that.
Yeah. So again, going back, there's some discrepancy here, whether this worked or not. And then once they see Irby's skeleton in the broken glass casket, they're like, oh, it must have worked because, he's wasted away. So Farwell says, Mr. Irby has proven my point, however, gentlemen. He's definitely proven my point the hard way. And then Farwell, I don't even know, but he determined somehow out of thin air, this is about 2061.
Well, I mean, if you said they went in 1961, then it would be 100 years is what he's saying.
I mean, or his calculations, he doesn't really say how his calculations are precise.
To me, what I got from Falwell, he could care less about the gold, is what I was taking away from it, because just his attitude, I was like... He did all this. I don't think he wanted the gold. I think he just wanted the notoriety of being the smartest man that did this. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'll get to that in the closing.
Look at
questions
this.
And observations. Like these guys are just bumbling dummies. I mean, for as smart as they supposedly are and experts in all these fields.
Well,
anyway.
I mean, who can't relate to that? Their job these days, you got these people with 6 and 7 degrees, and yet,
I guess they're not very good thieves. I guess so. They just they're awake, and by the way, they all woke up at the same time. There wasn't staggered waking times. They all just sort of woke up at the same time and climbed out of the casket. Down to the very second they all woke up from.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. Here's another thing.
Right.
I thought it was
loaded up.
I thought it was cool how the gas came in, on their face and everything.
Yeah.
But when they just woke up, just like a light came on, and they woke up in their coffin. I thought there should have been like some gas released back to get your functions flowing too. Like when you go in for surgery and they get count down from 10, you're like 10, you fall asleep, and then they'd shoot you with that stuff to help wake you up after your surgery. So to me, I'm not gonna be too hard on that part, but it's just another pet peeve of mine.
So they start loading up outside the cave, and they bury Irby and DeCruz. They're loading up. They've loaded the gold into the back of the Ford, like truck or van or whatever. And DeCruz and Brooks says, "I don't trust you, DeCruz, with the gold in my mother's teeth," or something like that.
Yeah, they wanted to divide it up, and every man,
Yeah. No. Well, they were having an argument over who was going to drive the truck.
Okay, let's talk about this point one more time.
This episode's going to take like 2 hours.
Why? When they were unloading the truck onto a dolly, why did they just not pull the car up there and load it into the back of the car and then drive it into the cave?
I don't know. That's what I was saying before.
And if we're going back to the weight, there's no way that car is going to pull that gold.
No. Almost 2,000 pounds, you're going to need at least a full ton heavy duty truck.
And I just thought De Cruz was an idiot for...
Yeah. Okay. Let's get to the scene.
You just lost some more gold.
He wants all the gold for himself, right? So he gets gold fever, but they're split 3 ways now.
Right.
It's better if they keep all the gold in the truck, supposing that they still load it in the truck and they drive it into town and they exchange it. Their split, his 33% is going to be worth more, but instead he tries to run over Brooks and runs the truck over the side of the cliff.
Well, no, he did that on purpose.
Yeah.
But my thing is, Irby already died, so you've already made another 8%?
Yeah. So answer this: is the gold inside the truck when he runs him over, or is it still in the cave? Because that part was unclear to me.
Well, they were in the middle of loading it up, right?
So I thought maybe it was already loaded. So that makes it even more ridiculous that they loaded it up and then he ran it over the side of the cliff with the gold.
But that can't be true, because if you remember right, they're carrying it at the end. The gold, because how else would he have to pay for the water?
I just assumed that they would scale down the side of the cliff and pull the gold out of the back of the truck. Maybe they didn't. I mean, that would be even more ridiculous.
Well, I think and I'm going to have to give De Cruz some credit here, because I think he did that saying, okay, they're going to find this place eventually. Let's go ahead and
make
basically
it look like
sacrifice an accident, have some gold in the back of this, and then it'll be on him, and then we'll be away scot-free. So I'll give him a little bit of credit for that. But I would have, after I ran him over, I would have took the gold out and then put him back in the car and threw it over the cliff.
Yeah.
But
I guess my point is the three-way with all the gold in the back of the truck, your cut is a lot more than two guys with knapsacks, because you can't carry as much, right? And that becomes more evident as the episode goes along. And you're in the desert, in Death Valley, and you got knapsacks versus a truck loaded with more weight in gold, split three ways. Anyway.
Makes no sense whatsoever, this entire film or episode. So.
Yeah. So we're on the road now, on foot. It's been determined by De Cruz. He kind of takes over, and Farwell can't make it more than very far. He's an older gentleman. He's a little bit more overweight, which he should have lost weight when he was suspended for 100 years.
No, but all body functions had stopped, Eric. So.
Okay, so I guess his weight was still on. So we come to find out there's like 28 miles to the nearest town, but Farwell says, man, we haven't seen a car for hours. Like, we haven't seen any cars out here. What if
there was
what
a
if
war?
start? Yeah. Like, what if there was a nuclear war and they dropped a bomb, etc.? Wouldn't that be the irony of all ironies, that we have all this gold and we're the only two people alive on Earth?
And he makes the comment, he's like, I can't go anymore. My heart's about to burst.
Yeah.
And my question to you is, Eric, how long can you walk before your heart bursts?
In Death Valley? I don't know. I'm not in very good shape either. I probably wouldn't last very long.
No, but I mean, scientifically, how long can a person push himself before their heart bursts? Do you know?
No. Did you
No,
Google that? Okay.
I was going to, but I was like, it's probably different for different people due to your BMI and all that stuff.
Yeah, I would imagine that dehydration would hit you before your heart. I mean, maybe as a result, your heart would give out because
if you're a doctor and listening to this podcast, could you please contact us at thetragedycinema@gmail.com and tell us?
Yeah. So, about that time, they see jets in the sky. So Farwell's in bad shape already, but De Cruz says, "Hey, man, we're back on track. I see the jets in the sky. That makes it all good. We're not the only people on Earth." So I'm gonna keep pushing. I'm gonna keep pushing.
Hang on, I got a question.
Okay.
So he says, "Oh, look, there's jets in the sky." You don't think it's changed in 100 years? The jets in 100 years from when you were asleep?
Yeah. Well, that harkened my mind back to King 9 Will Not Return.
Right.
That was one way he knew that he was in the...
Right.
Or that he had that dream that he went into the past, but there were jets that flew over and that kind of didn't jive with his...
Exactly.
Yeah. So... Here's another thing. Oh my gosh, it's just loaded. Farwell discovers that he has left his canteen at the last place that they stopped. The only thing that you need in the desert, more important, I mean, maybe that is just an ironic, Rod just put that in for irony, that he would leave his canteen. And the canteen, obviously, of water is way more valuable than gold at this point, that we're going to see that develop more and more.
Okay. Another thing that just hit me. You have all these experts in noxious gases, mechanical engineering, firearms, blah, blah, blah. Why wouldn't you melt the gold down?
Yeah. It seems like you got the brain power to do that.
Me and you would be better equipped to pull this off than these idiots.
I don't know.
Even my dad could pull it off. That's saying something.
And remember, when De Cruz ran over Brooks, he was picking up a 5-gallon jug of water. That would have sufficed.
Oh, man.
Okay. I got way more at the end. We're just hitting these as we go along.
We're just getting started.
Yeah. So a deal is struck, of course. 1 drink of water from De Cruz's canteen, which he has managed to hold on to, for 1 bar of gold. That's the going rate, so to speak. So we continue walking and walking until Farwell, he's so thirsty and, his bag is empty. He can barely walk. And then De Cruz says, well, the rate of exchange has gone up. It's now 2 bars of gold for 1 swallow of water.
Is De Cruz an idiot? He's getting more gold to carry in Death Valley. What are you doing? I understand the gold fever, but man.
Yeah. There's suspended animation in this. You got to suspend thought in this episode. Like, you really just got to turn your brain. I mean, I'm not saying it was... Anyway, I'll get to that at the end. But
yeah,
so,
you are.
in a moment, in a flash, in a moment, Farwell smashes the gold bar into De Cruz's head, and he kills him with the bar of gold. He's crouching down and giving him the canteen of water, whatever. He laughs maniacally, and then he starts like weeping, all in one moment there. Just, I don't know if there's a scene change. There might be a scene change here, but he's laying as the scene opens up.
Yeah, he's stumbling down the road.
Farwell is like laying on his back at the very end scene, and a futuristic man driving a futuristic car discovers Farwell on the side of the road, and he's barely conscious, and Farwell begs him to take him to town. And he explains that he will pay him in gold, one bar of gold for a ride.
I'll give you this.
Yeah.
The guy's like, all right, bud.
So the futuristic vehicle that the man pulls up in at the end of the episode is a modified version of Robbie the Robot's car, first constructed by MGM for the science fiction classic Forbidden Planet, 1956.
Nice, excellent movie. But was the wife driving?
I don't know.
Because she was in the far seat, but
yeah, I don't know.
I didn't really pay attention to who was driving.
So the futuristic man, his name is
George.
Yeah. So Farwell dies on the side of the road. The futuristic man very casually explains that the gold used to be. He's talking to his wife, and he says the gold used to be worth something about 100 years ago before they started manufacturing it. So that's the big Twilight Zone twist at the end. It's basically worthless.
They thought they were going to be billionaires, and now they are broke.
Yeah. So that pretty much brings us to the end of the episode. I think I've covered most of the trivia throughout the course of us unpacking the episode. Let me just... A few more points I'll hit, and then we can move to the end. And Jimbo, you can disclose whatever you have. Airing immediately after 100 Yards Over the Rim in 1961, this is the second story in a row that centered on a protagonist encountering people from the future. Right, remember Christian, Horn, and now these four men, or well, actually just Farwell, I guess, encounters the man from the future. Robert L. McCord III, also known as Bob McCord, who played the role of the sheriff pursuing Chris Horn in the previous episode, was the stunt double for the character of Brooks in the episode. So Brooks actually had a stuntman when he got ran over. Because this and the previous episode were filmed back-to-back on location in the desert near Lone Pine, California, so it wasn't actually in Death Valley. It was in Lone Pine, California. It's obvious that the truck which speeds past Chris in 100 Yards Over the Rim was the same used by the crooks in this story. We already talked about that off the top. Now, this is kind of interesting from finance side. The interior of the cave, which, Jimbo, you talked about this earlier, like with the echoing and, the ambiance of the cave, they really did a really good job, including the glass caskets, raked up Cayuga's production costs to the tune of $1,500. The exterior of the cave, including the fake door, was filmed on location in Lone Pine. This was constructed at a cost of $335 in materials and labor and dismantled after the required scenes were shot. Filming on location for this episode required the use of 2 local policemen and 1 ranger to be near the set during the filming for security reasons. Not sure why. It doesn't go on and explain what the security reasons were, but I don't know, maybe just for accidents and so forth. So $1,500 for the cave and $335 for the door. That was quite a chunk of change back then. Thought that was kind of interesting. Says originally Serling had composed a much lengthier opening narration for the script. It's hard to conceive Serling on screen speaking this much dialogue, and perhaps this was the moment when he realized he was writing himself in too much and started to shorten his narrations considerably. I did.
Or maybe he said, "Why am I even want my face on this episode?"
Yeah, because it doesn't really fit. Like the Invaders, right? He wasn't. Was he? Well, his face wasn't on screen in the Invaders, right? Only his voice. I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. No, because that was one of the problems that we had with. We talked about maybe continuity because she was. Anyway, She was in the on a different planet or whatever. That's it for trivia. I think we've beaten this thing to a bloody pulp. But I do have a few more flaws and questions and observations. You got anything?
I'll let you take it away.
I feel like
I mean,
I don't know. So here's the number one. I think this one takes the cake. All right, and you talked about this just a little bit earlier. Okay, main plot flaw. Why would a man who develops such a technology, such as suspended animation, potentially worth millions of dollars on its own, need to steal $1 million in gold? Why couldn't he just sell his patent or his idea?
The obvious answer is he was a Nazi. I mean, let's think about it. This wasn't too long after World War II.
Right.
And what did Hitler do?
Yeah.
So, with the concentration camps, the death gases, and all those, when you watch Schindler's List and stuff, it's really, I don't know if that was a purpose of this episode, because the guy did kind of seem like a German,
devious,
if you, like
German accent, yeah.
And I told you could see it in his mind that he didn't really care about the gold.
He was like a mad scientist almost,
right?
So I don't, maybe I don't know. Maybe
but then
he
again,
was holding true to his mad scientist, but
right.
like, why wouldn't you sell that to a government and make millions more dollars than just $1 million in gold bullion? But
it's like why. I better not say that. Okay.
So, okay, that's the main plot flaw that I saw. Like, I would sell the idea and make way more money. But anyway, here's another smaller, lesser ones. We've covered many other ones. But how did the truck battery remain charged or the fuel not go bad after 100 years?
This is true.
Or even I was reading even deeper, like rubber itself.
The tires, right.
It wouldn't last 100 years, so the tires would be flat. We talked about running over the cliff and staging the accident, and we talked about how the money would be split better 3 ways with more gold than 2 ways on knapsacks. And the very last comment I had was just, we got 38 more years until they wake up, so be looking for these guys when they wake up in 38 years.
Let this be a lesson to everybody. Exercise is bad for you. Take the car.
This guy almost died.
Right. They did die. His heart almost burst.
He almost died from walking and then eventually did die. Right.
Take the car, idiot. Take the car. Take them.
All right. I've had enough. What do you rate this one? Including the twist. I mean, go ahead.
Okay. I think we've been spoiled by some really great episodes, especially in season 1. Season 1 is just far and above season 2 so far. I personally think. So when you go into these runs of this, this might be lower than the Big Tall Wish. You remember how hard I was on the Big Tall Wish, with the boxer in season 1. I just think that for as much as you put into these guys being smart and on their game and psychiatrists, whatever you want to call them, it just didn't live up to the hype for me. There's so many plot holes and so many stupid, idiotic moves.
It's hard to give it a
Let me ask you another question. If you're gonna knock all these people out on the train, why blow up the train tracks? Just take the train and further down the road to where you're going and unload it there.
Well, you've uncovered another one.
Do you think that the gas used on the train was the same gas that they used in the coffins? Are those people going to be asleep for 100 years?
I think so. I think the implied,
that they're going to be asleep for 100 years.
That the people in the train would be asleep for 100 years? I don't know.
Well, but they weren't enclosed in coffins either.
Yeah.
But would they be skeletons when they woke up? I don't know, man.
We've really
So
about blowing up train tracks. We really derailed on this episode.
Just because of the lighting and the shadows and the set, and I'm taking away all the bad acting, I will give this a 4. 4 out of 10.
Okay. I think I'm going to look at it. Sorry, Rod, but this one is, I don't know. There's just a lot of.
Can we get one more boo real quick?
Well, I'll save one for the end. But, The twist is not bad, even though you can kind of see it coming a little bit, that these guys all turn on each other. You don't know exactly how it's going to play out. but the twist is halfway decent. I don't know. The acting is so, but there's just so many holes in it. I think IMDb gave it a 6.5. I got to go down to at least a 5. I might not put it at a 4, but I got to put it at least at a 5. I don't know. I don't know enough about the original Rip Van Winkle story to see what parallels were taken out of the story, other than the going to sleep and waking up in the future. Other than that, I really don't think there's anything else that was used, for obvious reasons probably. But yeah, this one's just a complete... It's just a failure for me. And it's hard to find one that's really bad. But this one, again, the more you watch it, it's just more like, hey, what about this? Hey, what about this?
So,
hey,
Eric, do you think this is in your forefront for winning a tragedy award at the end of the season for the worst episode?
I think it's in
season
the running
2?
for sure for season 2.
Wow.
It's hard to come up with one that's... And, yeah. So I'm going to give it a solid middle 5 or 4.5 at best.
Right.
So,
well, at least we're in agreement on this one. That hardly ever happens where we both just...
I started out really high on it. I was like, oh,
I remember you're like, oh, yeah, we got to run about 6 or 7 episodes. They're really good.
It must have slipped my mind that this one is in there. It just, it's no good. But, moving on, I think we've...
Right. If you'd like to follow us on the social media, we are the Tragedy of Cinema Podcast. You can find us on Facebook. I would say Twitter, but that's no longer just the big X. We are on TikTok, blah, 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 all the thing. If you'd like to be a guest episode, come join us, talk about Twilight Zone. I'm sure if we could find the time, me and ADZ could get that accommodated. So, well, Eric, I think we've been ratting on this far too long in the fifth dimension. I think we went to the sixth dimension with this episode. So, that being said, I think this episode's coming to a close, and that's a wrap.
And cut.
The last of 4 Rip Van Winkles who all died precisely the way they lived, chasing an idol across the sand, to wind up bleached dry in the hot sun as so much desert flotsam, worthless as the gold bullion they built a shrine to. Tonight's lesson in the Twilight Zone.